Calcelmo doesn't want anyone to go in. He runs the museum. He makes the rules. You have a problem with that? Go talk to him. You'll find him in front of the ruins during the day, just down the tunnel.
Welcome back to Legendary Joe's Master Routes, and I think we have our marching orders right from the beginning. Calcelmo, it's going to be. Now we are continuing our adventure in the Understone Keep.
What are you doing here? The excavation site is closed. I don't need any more workers or guards.
Well, you know, I was looking for you, actually.
I told you I'm not hiring any more guards. Why do you people always bother me when I'm trying to finish my research? You idiot! Do you even know who I am? The most recognized scholar on the Dwemer in all of Tamriel. And you people keep bothering me. I'm sorry, I got too excited. I'm in the middle of some very stressful work, and I shouldn't have yelled. How can I help you?
Well, Mr. Pride, I've got a delivery for you.
Oh, that's right. I keep forgetting to pick that up. Poor Kira. Such a patient woman. Now, you're supposed to get something for your trouble, aren't you? How about some gold? People seem to like that, I notice.
So they say you own the Dwemer Museum.
Correct. It's a private place where I can catalog my research. Occasionally, the Jarl will come in and have questions, but that's thankfully rare. I'll let you in if you agree to something for me. There's a giant spider in Nchuand-Zel. My workers call her Nimhe, the poisoned one. If you deal with Nimhe, I'll let you into both the excavation site and my Dwemer Museum. What do you say?
Done.
Enthusiasm. Good. Here's the key to the dig site.
And just like that, our adventure officially begins for this episode. So, let's also ogle at the Dwemer Armored Mud Crab, which is absolutely adorable. And
I've discovered in the around the laboratory will make history one day.
Alright, so the master route for this episode is going to be very convoluted, and that's because the quest is a bit convoluted. Essentially, we're going to the excavation site for Nchuand-Zel, which is the Dwemer ruin here in Markarth. Now, ultimately, once we get to the bottom of this, we are to get a brand new quest after we take out Nimhe, the spider boss. So the big quest is going to have us searching the entire Dwemer ruin for 4 different journals to try and figure out what happened to a lost expedition team that went back here. So again, everything's to have timestamps like always. And let's go ahead and start with the first part of this mission. We are going to get a lot of skills leveled up in this episode. We're going to get a few level ups ourselves and get a ton of really good loot in this one. So let's go ahead and start it out with the Nchuand-Zel Excavation Site. You know, normally I can never say the name of these Dwemer ruins. Luckily, they actually said how to pronounce it this time. So let's go ahead and work our way down just to kind of skip a lot of the platforming here. As you can see, we get ourselves a blacksmith potion, which is something you definitely want to hold on to, even if you don't use potions. And over here, we start our spider massacre. So let's go ahead and just burn it all. I mean, it literally goes back to a trope of kill it with fire. I don't know if they're supposed to be weak to fire, but it always just seems to do really good against them. So, dual casting the Flame Atronach so that it stays on the field longer. And now, let's just go to our old trusty Molag Balls mace and also get our fast healing. That is to be mainly our staple combination that we use with one-handed at this point, mainly because the mace is so overpowered that we got last episode. So if you didn't watch it, that came from the House of Horrors quest, the Daedric quest here in Markarth, and this mace is absolutely amazing. It drains their stamina, it drains their health, and it fills a soul gem if you have one available.
Walking the breadth of
So deeper into the spider's lair we go, and anytime you see it clumped up like this, just give it a few whacks and we'll make our way through. Now, one thing that is going to be very, very confusing about Nchuand-Zel itself is the fact that a lot of these Dwemer ruins look very similar. As you can see, there's Nimhe making its grand appearance from the ceiling. So let's go ahead up top and just get completely distracted on the flame atronach. Again, this is why we dual casted it, just to keep it on the field longer. And at this point, let's just use our upgraded drain spell to absolutely sap it from a safe distance. And just like that, Nimhe is out of here, and we can go ahead and either tell Calcelmo right now that the job is done, or we can go pick up the new quest, which is what we're going to do. So, up here, you will notice there's a person downed with a note, Alethius. We've been saddled with some researchers. Can't go 4 steps without examining something. They fight well, you'd think. Probably worse, Storm at least, for some magic competence, but none of them can swing a sword. Urge and Krag seem up to something, so I'll have to keep an eye on them, but Staubs assures me they're trustworthy. Alethius. So, he was literally tasked with getting the expedition team out here, and he already is thinking they're not the most trustworthy of people. So let's go ahead and see what lies beyond the spider web. As you can see, this one's much thicker. You just have to kind of hit it over to the right side. And I think we can get it over here because you can see the door beyond. And just like that, we can finally make our way into Nchuand-Zel itself. Now, with this Dwemer ruin, it is basically a gigantic vertical cavern. So you start at the top of this place, and you have multiple locations to explore that ultimately leads you down all the way to the water pit at the bottom. Now, you can skip a good part of it by just jumping all the way to the bottom with Become Ethereal, but if you do it that way, you're going to eventually run head-on into some of the strongest enemies in here. So, honestly, it's just better to take this one top-down. So, we're going to have ultimately a living quarters area to go through. We're going to have an armory, and we're going to have the control room itself. Ultimately, on our path to find out what happened to the 4 expeditioners. Considering they never came back, and this place is literally crawling with Falmer, odds are they didn't make it, but we still have to figure out what happened to them. So let's go ahead, get our skeleton back on the field here, get our healing at the ray, because the healing really does 2 different things at once. If you're using unarmed weapons, this way every hit you do is adding to your unarmed skill, and anytime you take damage, you're getting skill added to either light armor or heavy armor, depending on which one you have equipped, or even both if you have a little bit of both equipped, like light boots and heavy armor. And also, anytime you heal yourself, you're also increasing the recovery spell. And just like that, let's make sure everything's out of here before we proceed any further. And of course, we have skulkers just lurking around the area. So let's go ahead and shout him into oblivion. Out of here, you! The only problem with that is, as you can see, the bottom of the cave is literally flooded. So, unfortunately, just blowing them off the banister is not necessarily going to get rid of them. So let's go down here, make sure he's dealt with. As you can see on the lowest level here, there is going to be a door to the control room, and behind us is going to be a chest. That's basically all that's at the very bottom of this location, because most of what we're going to find is stuck somewhere in between. Again, very, very beautiful cave. Usually these Dwemer sites are not as visually appealing. You hate to say, but a lot of these Dwemer ruins look very similar because they use the same few textures over and over again, and a lot of them have a tendency to look blocky, but this one actually does look like a ruined civilization, which I really like. especially the fact that we do get individual locations like living quarters, armories, control areas. Just really neat that they really built this one out more so than many of them. So as you can see, we can go ahead and get into a chest down here, and you actually get some good loot because they anticipate you to actually work your way down and not just run your way down here, but it just shows the flexibility we have in this area. So let's go ahead and grab an ebony shield, because that is pretty much our only way to increase our blocking skill, which actually does have a few really good perks that you can get under that skill tree. So let's go ahead and move on to our living quarters, except of course there's an enemy right on top of us according to the thing. I don't know if it's invisible or floating in the air, but I think Bethesda's being Bethesda at the moment. We're probably going to find out as soon as we get in here. So let's head on to the living quarters. And of course, right there it is the second we pop in. So, Mule, you want to handle this one? I mean, we will if we absolutely have to. And just like that. Think we got it. I definitely have to find the stronger weapon to give to Mule, because normally she's out here 1- and 2-shotting everything, but she has been struggling lately for some reason. So let's go ahead, light this place up, and this is going to be our biggest battle right now. A lot of times these Dwemer ruins are not the brightest places to explore. Sometimes you'll get some with natural lighting, definitely not this one. So now we have him back on the field. Let's unfortunately get rid of the ebony shield, and let's go ahead and use our soul gems just to repower the Mace of Molag Bal. That way it can actually do all of its effects and not just deal straight damage. So now you can see that stamina is getting drained, so it can't use its power attacks. It's pretty much helpless. And again, the Gloom Lurker is the one you never want to let get set up on you. As you can see, it's the magic user of the group, and they're usually pretty tanky because of all their magic spells. So let's go ahead, literally 2-shot this one. Me and the Skeleton Champion literally double teaming the Falmer right out of existence. And at this point, let's go ahead and explore the living quarters, as we are on our way to the first of the 4 expedition journals. As you can see, we run into heavy resistance down here. I mean, it's literally the living quarters. You'd expect this is where most of the Falmer are held up at. So, let's just battle them up the staircase as much as we can. We could switch to magic, we could switch to arrows, but at this point, we're just doing good getting our one-handed up. Getting the mace a good workout. And at this point, they're literally just isolating themselves. Mule has now taken charge. I don't even know where the heck she came from, but we'll help her out here. Get out, you and your friends. We are literally on a mission to grab everything possible. And at this point, anytime you're overweight, always drop the shields. They're usually the heaviest thing that you can grab. Usually easiest thing to get rid of. So, let's go ahead, continue on. Falmer, if you could leave, we are trying to explore the living quarters. Daggone you. Sheesh. I think we got it. There we go. Literally right in the throat. As you saw up in the top left, no soul gem large enough, so either we are down to just the tiny soul gems now, like the petty ones, or we just don't have any free soul gems left. We've filled every one that we have. As you see there, from the ones literally sniping us up top, we're still getting boost our heavy armor ability right now. And to be honest, I don't even remember what armor I have on. I feel like literally since we played the game last time, back in Act 1 or Season 1, I feel like was the last time we actually changed armor. So it's definitely well beyond time for a major upgrade. Not to happen this time though. We are too busy with all the fighting in this one. So at this point, we're just getting him caught between us and the champion. And Skulker, stop skulking. We are on our way. We gotta get Storm's journal up here. So, let's go ahead, watch out. We do have the Gloom Lurker that's lurking on top of the staircase. And again, when it's got that magical ward up, even your shouts are gonna do nothing. They're basically just gonna disappear into the ether if you try to do anything to him here. And the problem is, he just will not break his stance. Come heck or high water. This is why I say they are so dang bulky, because he can heal himself, he can whack you with a bunch of different elements like you saw there between electricity and fire. And we are absolutely going to make Mule so overpowered it's not even funny, because we're going to end up throwing all the staves to her and just let her rain down an ungodly amount of elemental attacks on everything as we go through here. So,
I love the cold air. It's exhilarating. Perhaps it's because of my Nord blood, but there's something.
absolutely agree. And if we go out here, we find ourselves on a balcony about halfway down into the cave itself. As you saw, we are up there. Now let's head back in, because ultimately we have to find ourselves the torture room. Why is there a torture room in the living quarters? I have no idea, but that's ultimately what we're looking for, because that's where we're going to find the first of our expedition journals. So, let's continue on. So, basically, like you saw, if you go all the way down the living quarters, you eventually hit a dead end, where it dead ends you onto the balcony down there. So, we need to go up a side path that we didn't take before. As we work our way back, because we didn't even take out all the enemies that are here yet, until we explore the new area of the quarters. So, let's head back up the main staircase where we fought the whole herd of 3 of them. And then, let's go over here. You can see there's going to be another locked door. Let's just go ahead and get that out of the way. And this one, again, the loot is pretty much randomized, but some chests have better loot than others. That one, not so much. But again, the Dwemer stuff is so bizarre because pretty much everything you can grab is very heavy. And really, it doesn't sell for as much as you would think. I usually more go with Elven or better. Ebony's definitely the best when it comes to just selling things you find. But Dwemer, you always have to be careful of the weight of things. As we go back through, and this time, again, working our way back, as you can see how easy it is to get lost in places like this. However, the fact that there's enemies still alive tells us that we've not been everywhere yet in the living quarters. So, here they come, blowing down the staircase at us. And at this point, I really wish we had a way to wake up the Dwemer, because if you didn't know, the Falmer, aka the Snow Elves, definitely have been at war with the Dwemer people, the dwarves, because you will always find them hidden underground in these type of dungeons. Basically run away from society to try and regroup themselves. And honestly, all we need to do is just wake this place up, which we're actually going to end up doing at the end of this quest, just to cause mass pandemonium with the Falmer that are still alive down at the bottom. So let's continue our way down, making sure we've got our elemental attacks at the ready, because at this point, we are just about through with the living quarters. And again, the combat's only going to get more intense the further into this we get. This is just where a lot of the lower level enemies are, and you do get a few of the magicians, even though that one, I'm not really sure why it's called a skulker, considering it's clearly the magic one. Go ahead and blow that skeever out of existence. And just like that, we got ourselves the lightning rod staff, which is also going to go back to Mule, since we're ultimately going to let her dual wield staffs. So we're going to give her one that is fire, one that is lightning, and then, holy gosh, help anything that would dare go against us.
People say Skyrim is one of the most dangerous places in Tamriel. I think they're wrong. It's magnificent, and I'm proud to call it home.
Well, believe me, it is extremely dangerous. I mean, even before the dragons got awoken with our whole execution scene right at the beginning of the series. So now that they're out here and we've got pretty much all the goodies here, we are ultimately looking for the torture room, which has got to be just over here pretty close. As you can see, the very first journal we're going to get up there is Stromm's journal. And what I do love about this is they pretty much put a different person in each of the locations. So you just about know, as long as you go to a different location in Nchuand-Zel's ruins, you're pretty much guaranteed to find one of the expeditioners. So again, the one we're looking for here is to be in the torture room, which is just down the hall here, off to the left, and right there it is. So there's the torture rack, there's the chamber up top. As you can see, we've got poisons they were using to get to people. There's the ones that didn't make it. I also love the hidden touch of the switch here, because if you hit the switch, you activate your own torture device that was used over here. You can see right there. I couldn't even imagine just being laid on the stone table and stabbed like that. So, right over here from this location, we want to head out. And if we just head around the corner, we're going to find Stromm with his diary or journal right on the table. All right. Decide to remain behind with one of the guards. Further document the living area we stumbled across, to the best of ability, but due to sudden disappearance of Dwemer, it's almost possible to say for certain what anything is. Tree by the 9, I cannot determine the purpose of this tree. It appears to be from the area around Whiterun. Why and how it got here is beyond me. I think it may be a gift from the surface world, based on lavish surroundings. It could also be a display of power. Living areas. Upon further investigation of the area, it looks like this structure houses 2 clans of families. I can think of no other reason for this particular layout. Perhaps the group oversaw this particular portion of the city. I'll have to compare notes. Hopefully some of these will contain more in-depth clues. It appears a small wing collapsed in on itself, and maybe when the expedition returns, we can dig out an entrance. Falmer had begun to creep back into the area of the ruins. It's a good thing I'm not alone here. We've managed to block off some of the areas we suspect the Falmer were coming in through, but they're still getting to us somehow. Together we are able to hold them back, but how long until Staubin and the rest return? Alright, so as we can see, he was literally trapped in here when the Falmer started flooding into the area, basically telling us that the others have ventured off into other parts of Nchuand-Zel's ruins. So, let's head back to Nchuand-Zel itself, basically getting ourselves back out of the living quarters where we came into it at. And now that we're back up top, let's go ahead and make our way over to the armory. So, let's use Become Ethereal right here, jump off to make sure we don't take any damage, just in case that it was shallow water and not deep. You can never be too sure and never be too cautious. So, just like that, the big door down here is going to take us into the Nchuand-Zel Armory, and this is where we're going to get the journal or diary from Krag. So, let's just head up the giant staircase right in front of us and go to the right. Again, this is such a confusing area if you just keep wandering around. For instance, the living quarters literally will just dead end you at that balcony. And if you don't know to look around the area, you'd probably miss Stromm's journal entirely. So let's continue our way down as we've got ourselves yet another skulker that is using magic. I give up at this point. But we can push him into the fire for added effect, even though he's literally putting up his ward to resist it. That's probably a good way to stun lock him there. Have him just put their ward up against the fire magic and just keep pounding on him. And so over here, as you can see, we can take this to Nchuand-Zel itself, and this will take us to a new portion of it where we'll find Krag's journal. I knew if we dug deep enough, we'd eventually hit some fresh ruins. Markarth, a city built upon a city from early pieces recovered. We've determined the name of the city is Nchuand-Zel, but past that, we have very little info. We've been given escort, and tomorrow we'll delve into the city proper. It's only been a day, and I already missed my desk and chair. I thought it'd be a little more fun to explore, but so far it's just been fighting spiders and getting a view an ancient rubble pile. Hopefully, we get to the main ruins soon so we can set up camp. I can start cataloging some of the items I've been able to find. We found the armory earlier, and Urge has stayed behind to find a way into the main vault. If anyone can open the locks, it's him. We've kept going and settled here for a night since the guards say it'll be easy. Well, sounds like Urge, who went on to get into the vault itself, may have had his own agenda here. Considering he just left his teammates on the expedition, as we saw Stromm literally back there investigating the tree that looks like it came from Whiterun and was just replanted here. And then you had literally Crom, who was staying behind checking out the armory, and Urge just never came back for him. So let's continue on to Nchuand-Zel Control. And this is ultimately where we're going to find the third of our expeditioners. This is going to be Staubin's journal. And this is actually the one that Calcelmo seems to know. He's the one that he calls out by name when you go back and talk to him. So let's go ahead and fight our way up. Since this is the control room, we're going to do a lot more than just read a journal here. As you can see, this area is much more heavily fortified. We've even got trigger traps, as you saw down there from the walls. So let's be careful as we fight our way up. Now, I believe this is the one that is pretty much unmissable. And my gosh, is this a terrible idea, because they're already buffing their defense. They're already basically canceling out any magic attacks. But daggone it, we are still going to charge them like they are doing nothing to us, even when we're at the last stinking hit. My gosh. You know, I'm so used to being a stealth archer in previous playthroughs of Skyrim that I just feel like I already have all those abilities, and we've basically invested nothing into archery hardly so far. We are nowhere near at that level of competency yet, but we'll get there sooner than later. So let's continue on around the corner. As you can see, there he is. Let's just make sure that the area is safe before we go trying to read his journal here, since this seems to be the one that Calcelmo knew the most about, at least the way he talks to us about it. Alright, looks good. Let's see what yours says. After making our way down the mine and through the spires, we finally made it down to Nchuand-Zel proper. They built the city into very cave walls and a house. Amazing, Nchuand-Zel hums with life, but its guardians lay dormant. Hopefully we can learn more as we go deeper. The area seems to be where two of the city's families lived. We spent some time studying the tree outside the dwellings, but cannot figure out what its significance is. Stromm will be remaining behind with one of the students to further study this area in greater depth. I look forward to reading his notes on the subject. Today we entered the city's armory. The Falmer have yet to break into the best of the dwarven goods. Thanks to study, Dwemer Locke's Urge said he would be able to get to in the vaults and would send word when he's in. Somehow I doubt that. Finally tired of our intrusion, they came while we slept and slaughtered what guards were left. Meridia, forgive me for using my students as a distraction to get away, but I have to bring this place back to life. Too many. Can't hit switch. Well, that explains now why Calcelmo speaks the most of him. So these other people on the expedition were literally his students, and he was basically using them as disposable pawns just to be able to get the Dwemer defense system turned back on. So since we're in the control room, let's go ahead and hit that switch for him. In Staubin's honor, let's go ahead and do it. And this will give you a preview of why we want to hit the switch, because these two entities absolutely despise each other. So, let's just watch the show at this point. Make sure we can actually see, get our health back up. And might as well try to drain some things while we're here. As you can see, the Dwarven Spider actually resists it. So odds are the Dwarven Spear will as well. So let's just drain the Falmer instead. And we'll deal with you all the old-fashioned way. And it's definitely not with Revenant, because we have nothing to bring back. I always forget what that spell does, as we literally just blew the Dwarven Spider into next century. Let's go ahead as our Atronach is trying to hit the thing. As you can see, right up here is going to be our switch that we need to press. And at this point, we can go ahead and reactivate the security systems. Just like that. Alright, so now it wants us to find out someone who knows about the expedition. Obviously, that's Calcelmo. So let's go back to Nchuand-Zel itself. As you can see, the enemies are now infighting. So that's exactly what we wanted, and believe me, we want nothing to do with the Centaur. At all. These things are always tough to deal with, and my gosh, as you can see, even our strongest spell, dual casted multiple times, can't even get him halfway down. So, luckily, he is focused on the Falmer, so we are not going to waste any of our health, stamina, or anything else on him. As you can see, there was Krag's corpse. So now if we go back into the armory, we can make our way to the head of the operations, Urge. I'm sure it's probably not said Urge, but that's kind of what it looks like. So that's the best way I can try to find him here. As you can see, he made it all the way to the lock at the beginning of this place. So let's go ahead and make sure this area is safe before we proceed further, because we do see a red dot down there. As you can see, it's has something to do with that gate, I have a feeling. So let's go ahead and see if we can find Urge's journal, diary, and see if he corroborates what everyone else has been saying about him. How foolish to move through this place so quickly. It's taken me only a few hours to crack the back gate, but maybe I'll donate a cup or two. Krag says he knows some private buyers who will pay handsomely for working trinket here. The side doors are all locked, but this chest should have one or two things of value. When I get out, I'm going to buy myself a castle. Well, there's your proof. He was in it for himself the whole time. So he was literally taken out right before he got to it. As you can see, it does have better loot than most chests. Obviously, it's randomized, so unless it's scripted to have a certain weapon or armor piece in there, you're just going to get good random loot. And definitely the best one of all the chests we found so far. So let's go ahead and break our way out of the main gate as we work our way all the way down to the bottom of the chasm. Back into Nchuand-Zel itself, because at this point we just need to actually clear the area out of the enemies. And luckily there's only a few more Falmer left. So, before we head back out here and actually deal with Calcelmo himself, let's put the finishing touches on this. Back up, if they'll let us. Come on, there we go. Alright. So let's whack the Skulker into next century. As we can see, Miol was back there at the entrance trying to take on 3 different ones. I swear to goodness, this is why I always say she is literally the best one to have. I know a lot of people love Ayla, and I know a lot of people wish that the vampire woman was available, even though she never quite commits unless there's a mod. But I've always found Miol to be the strongest because literally she is essential. You cannot take her out. So you never have to worry about losing a spouse and having to deal with the courier and all that mess. And on top of her being essential, her stats are out of this world. I mean, I have literally seen her take some of these enemies out 1 to 2 hits with her heavy weapons if you give her some good ones. So let's go ahead and just pin everything over at the doorway. I'm pretty sure they finally ganged up on her enough. So let's head back over. Yep, she's down. Don't worry, she'll be back. Unfortunately for the Falmer, they will not. So, at this point, we're just increasing our archery skill, and as you can see, Mule is there causing absolute havoc. Ever since we gave her those 2 stabs and the old god's armor, she has been on fire. So, let's make sure, as you can see here, everything in the quest is done except for talking to a person that knows about the expedition, aka Calcelmo. So let's start to make our way back and make sure we clear out the last of the enemies here, because that's going to grant us our final level up for the episode. Because again, we're doing all of this not just because it's a quest within a quest, but we're doing all of this to gain access to the Dwemer Museum. Because there's some pretty neat things that you can do once you're in there, and we'll explore that more next time around, more so than this. Because I don't want to get too much mixed up here. Obviously, we still need to speak to the actual Jarl that is in charge of Markarth and deal with what's going on there as well. But we are absolutely flying through the quests here in Markarth as we are just trying to fish out the last 2 enemies that are hiding back here. Go ahead and unlock the gates while we can just to get our lockpicking skills up even more. As you can see, that actually gives you Dwemer armor down here. So if you didn't already have a Dwemer armor set, but honestly, I'm trying to find and piece together an ebony one right now that we have a good ebony shield to work with. So let's head back over here because we know that they went somewhere. We just don't know where they went. And the funny thing about it is, one of these final 2 enemies is absolutely hilarious. Get ready, because somehow he's like a micro-sized version of the enemies we've been facing. And I don't know if it was a rendering issue or if Bethesda literally intended it this way, but look how small he is. That's the Falmer Skulker. And it is literally tiny. I don't think I've ever seen one that small before. It had to be a rendering issue, or somehow they intentionally made a tiny model of it. I think it's hilarious. Get out of here, you. And the funny thing is, once you take him out, the big one is then to trap you in here. So don't turn around too fast, because here he comes. And there's the normal size one. So let's go ahead and get him out as well, as we try and figure out what in the world just happened, if we took out his son or what in the world that was. If you don't mind, we're just kind of hide around the pillar, make sure you are done with, and then we can finally make our way back out of Nchuand-Zel. As you can see, we got ourselves the level up officially. Let's finally do something with stamina, and at this point, we've got to do something with archery. For the love of gosh, we've literally been using the bound bow for 2 or 3 episodes now, and still have done nothing with it. So let's at least slow time slightly. Ultimately, I just want to get to a point where we can walk normal speed with the bow pulled. But ultimately, let's head back to Understone Keep, because old Calcelmo's got some explaining to do about this expedition.
I have things to study. What is it?
Spider down.
My gratitude. That spider had been interfering with my excavations for months. As promised, is the key to the Dwemer Museum. Mind the displays. Some of them are quite fragile.
It's about the expedition journal.
Let's see. Ah, so that's what happened to Staubin. Tragic. But I warned him he was leading those people on a fool's errand. Unfortunately, sometimes the stone of scholarship is built on the foundation of death. I'll inform the kin. Here, I usually pay researchers for their work when they emerge from the ruins, but they won't be needing it anymore.
And just like that, we complete the Lost Expedition quest and finally gain him as a magic vendor. So if you remember from the last episode, when we took a tour of Markarth itself, we had the Hag's Cure for our alchemy shop. We had the smithing area in the center of everything. And we had the general store down by the entrance, the Arnleaf and Sons Trading Company. Now we finally have ourselves the magic shop with Calcelmo and the Understone Keep. As you can see, he's got a wide variety of magic spells to work with. I'm sure a lot of that has to do with what your actual skills are with each of the different practices, because you notice he has a ton of conjuration spells. And I think that's mainly because my conjuration is higher than pretty much every other magic skill I have right now. So definitely someone that we want to rely on heavily going forward, especially the further we get our skills leveled up. But ultimately, the biggest thing and the biggest win of all of this is we finally got the key to get into the Dwemer Museum. Now let's head back and try to get ourselves in. But before we do, we should probably pay off our bounty.
I know you. There's no mistake. You're a wanted man.
All right, you got me. It's literally only 5 gold.
Good enough. I'll just confiscate
He literally won't even take you away from the area for that little amount.
Old Dwarven city underneath the keep. The Nchuand-Zel. Best steer clear if you don't want a steam centurion carving you up. So Madanak was behind those murders. Gods help us. My, now that's some fine armor. Gotta keep my eyes open.
You know, one of the few times I do this quest, and they're not trying to eliminate me for being in the Dwemer Museum. You don't know how many playthroughs I have done of Skyrim, and nearly every time I'm in here, they're trying to get rid of me. So when you actually get in here legitimately, you can see we can massively get our lockpicking skills up.
Safest city in the Reach. You should see that orc over in Understone Keep.
Because you can see all these different display cases that we can lockpick in here.
Trouble?
And it really does have some really cool items, which we'll explore next time. As you can see, there's even locked gates. Just a ton of work you can do on lockpicking skills here. And as you can see, there is the Grand Centurion at the middle of it all. How in the world they moved this thing in here, I have no idea, but this has been one heck of an exciting adventure. Next time, obviously, we're going to get into more of the main quests with Markarth, since we do need to explore what's going on with the Jarl situation now that the uprising's over with, and literally, Mule is ready for war. So, if you've not already, please check out the Skyrim playlist. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Some more can see our videos, and we will see you back next time. Take care, everyone.